Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to my channel. It's called McDuff Lives, and yeah, we are having a little surprise visit from Olivia the Osprey tonight. She's dropped by to say hello. Hello, Olivia. How are you? What? Speak up. Oh, oh, that good, huh? Oh, you're happy because so many people are with us tonight and following McDuff Lives? That's great. Okay, Olivia. Well, I'll talk to you again later after the show, okay? All right. Bye-bye. Well, there was a cameo by Olivia the Osprey. Yeah. Hello, Corky. And, hey, Andy's with us tonight, once again, producing by remote control, as they used to say. And Andy DeBala, thanks again for being, really a strong support here. We've been doing shows remotely, and I know that's not the easiest way to do it. So very impressed and grateful at your effort and your strong support for McDuff and what we're trying to do here. Tell my dad's story, tell the truth about American history, and reform the republic, all in one channel, in 1 hour a night, and 1 hour in a lot of mornings. I've been doing about 14 shows a week right now. Always thinking about cutting it down to maybe 10 or so, but I really want to get this information out. So that's why I'm off and on 2 times a day. So, and thanks for being with me this morning. Hello, Dora and Corky. Deborah, did you ever get your wrench? I tried to give you a wrench. Let me see if I can take care of that right now. No, I can't do that on this vehicle. So, but I think I made you a wrench. Anyway, we'll see if anybody acts up. You can do your thing. But everybody's going to be nice tonight, right? Hi, VidCom. Hi, everybody. Yeah, well, we're wrapping up the month here on McDuff Channel. We take Sundays off, so today looks like the last day of the month for me. January 30th of 2021. Been a crazy January. The Capitol is locked down. The 11-foot fences with concertina wire on top and military units all around the Capitol. It's very, very disquieting and unnatural and wrong. It's just plain wrong. And it's kind of an invitation to me to really question whether that election was really an election instead of what it looks like. It looks like a banana republic coup d'etat. Yeah. Yeah, that's not the America that we sing about in our songs and pledge allegiance to. This is just too creepy. So maybe with the passage of time, people will realize. I put up on my Facebook, I said, Orange Man versus police state. You chose police state. Now let's see what you've won. I don't know. I get bitter, and I can't believe how incredibly great the PSYOP has been. So, but we keep fighting against it here at my channel and all of the great colleagues who work on the same team to upset this coup and get back to our republic. Well, what's going on now with the military? We started the chapter called "Drugging the Military" last time. We were reading "Population Control" by Jim Marrs. This book I find to be very important because it's the last book he wrote. It's published in 2015, and he died in 2017 after an amazing career of reporting journalism, and particularly study of the assassination of President Kennedy. Jim Marrs will be very much missed, but let's preserve his work by listening and paying attention, if you can, on a Saturday night to the text that we'll be reading here. We last read about Brandon Roub, a 26-year-old decorated Marine who was arrested by government agents and held against his will in a psychiatric ward for expressing his views on government corruption on Facebook. The crime for which the vet was isolated from his family, friends, and attorneys seemed to be that he held, quote, conspiratorial views about the government. Well, think about that today. You know, there are people out there saying that if you're a libertarian, then you're a conspirator against the government. If you express yourself, then you're subject to arrest. This is turning into a police state very quickly, and it's very, very bad. But it didn't start with Biden. It's been going on a long time. And while President Trump, I do sincerely believe, did the best he could to stop it, he couldn't stop it on his own. And so here we go, once again, trying to do the impossible to reverse the trend against liberty. Against the background of the widespread mistreatment of veterans, it's no surprise that when it comes to medication and drugs, they face additional problems. Many of these medications and treatments make veterans' health problems after returning home even worse. For years, the Defense Department denied the presence of squalene in the anthrax vaccine. However, the FDA has tested several samples of the vaccine and found the compound present in varying levels. This late admission irritated the late Washington Representative Jack Metcalf, who complained, "We've been told for 3 years there is no squalene in the anthrax vaccine. Then suddenly we are told, oh yes, it's there, but it's no big deal. It's everywhere." Pardon me. Citing the Military Vaccine Resource Directory website, Dr. Anders Bruin Larson, who has written extensively on vaccines in general and squalene in particular, noted, quote, "The average quantity of squalene injected into the U.S. soldiers abroad and at home in the anthrax vaccine during and after the Gulf War was 34.2 micrograms per billion micrograms of water. According to one study, this was the cause of the Gulf War syndrome in 25% of 697,000 U.S. personnel at home and abroad," unquote. Dr. Laursen, and that's spelling Laursen, said squalene in all probability was responsible for the Gulf War syndrome, and this has engendered, quote, "a deeply rooted mistrust in our politicians and the vaccine producers' motives and morals," unquote. One vaccine allotment contained 10.68 milligrams of squalene per 0.5 milliliter, which corresponds to 2,136 micrograms per billion micrograms of water. This is 1 million times more squalene per dose than advised in the Military Vaccine Resource Directory. There is every reason to believe that this will make people sick to a much higher extent. This appears murderous to me, unquote, said Dr. Larson. Professor Robert F. Gary confirmed these squalene levels in his testimony before the House Subcommittee on National Security, Veterans Affairs, and International Relations in 2002. Gary was the first to discover the connection between the Gulf War syndrome and squalene. Unsuccessful efforts have been made to ban squalene from vaccines, but controversy continues to rage. As at a 2010 gathering of the American Rally for Personal Rights in Chicago, retired Air Force Captain Richard Rover, who is also a registered nurse, warned that squalene M59 was forced on all servicemen beginning in 1999 via the mandatory anthrax vaccine. He said the adjuvant caused many of his comrades to suffer severe and permanent side effects. He said one of his close friends died from it. Quote, for the past 64 years, the United States military and other agencies within our government have used our servicemen and women as test subjects, oftentimes in secret and without informed consent, explained Captain Rover. Rover noted that in December 1994, the United States Senate released a report titled, quote, is military research hazardous to veterans' health? Lessons spanning a half a century, unquote, which outlined the unethical use of servicemen and women as test subjects, human guinea pigs. Exposing soldiers to harm off the battlefield is nothing new. Some 400,000 U.S. soldiers suffered the effects of debilitating amounts of radiation during nuclear bomb testing between 1945 and 1963, and the results of the Public Health Service's infamous Tuskegee syphilis experiments are well documented. In this experiment, which lasted between 1932 and 1972, nearly 400 Black Americans were studied for the effects of syphilis but never treated. Termed an outrage and profoundly morally wrong, President Bill Clinton publicly apologized for the experiments in 1997. Although the current drugging of soldiers is less well documented, the results may be even more devastating. As reporter Alex Jones put it, the mass drugging of U.S. troops is one of the most underreported scandals of the modern era, with soldiers not only being used as guinea pigs in a brave new world of pharmacological experimentation, but also having their rights stripped as a result. Michael's House, a Palm Springs drug treatment facility, reported that since 1999, more than 17,000 soldiers have been discharged from the U.S. military due to drug use. In that same time, the number of failed drug tests in the Air Force has increased 82%, and in the Army, 37%. As the New York Times confirms, recent years have seen a significant increase in stimulant use by the military, with annual spending on these drugs rising from $7.5 million in 2001 to $39 million in 2010. According to data provided by TRICARE Management Activity, which manages healthcare services for the Department of Defense, the number of Ritalin and Adderall prescriptions written for active duty service members increased by nearly 1,000%, jumping from 3,000 to 32,000 between 2007 and 2012. More prescriptions have meant more deaths, many of them self-inflicted. Between 2001 and 2009, as the numbers of psychiatric drug prescriptions among active troops rose 76%, the suicide rate increased more than 150%. Quote, these soaring statistics cannot be attributed to the horrors of war, as 85% of military suicide victims had never even seen combat, noted the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. This suggests that the PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, diagnosis is being widely handed out to active duty and vets to justify putting more and more of them on cocktails of prescribed mind-altering drugs from which they may never recover. Pardon me. In past years, war trauma, then called shell shock, was treated with compassion, understanding, and love. But according to the CCHR and many others, today the willingness to empathize with the warrior and listen to his experiences has been replaced by a psychiatric pop a pill, quick fix mentality that employs antidepressants, antipsychotics, stimulants, sedatives, or anti anxiety drugs that may produce harmful consequences. According to a report from Veterans for America, U.S. troops are being forced to take drugs like Prozac and Seroquel for anxiety and depression. Troops cannot refuse to take the drugs without consequences from their superiors. According to a according to a Department of Defense directive in 2011 entitled DoD Patient Bill of Rights and Responsibilities, military personnel are entitled to informed consent for any treatment and may refuse treatment. However, many times soldiers are led by suggestion or innuendo to believe that they cannot refuse mental health treatment. But while there is no permissible enforced treatment for active duty personnel, veterans may be threatened with losing benefits if they refuse psychiatric treatments recommended by VA hospitals or clinics. According to some veterans groups, the unprovoked wars of the Middle East recall that most of the 19 named hijackers of 2001 attacks were Saudi Arabians, have seen many instances of resistance by U.S. troops to their superiors' orders. Some military personnel are upset because they must bear the brunt of local vengeance in the wake of atrocities carried out by the growing number of civilian contractors who wear very much the same uniforms as servicemen but are paid more than double their salaries. It has been claimed that sometimes patrols decline to carry out their search and kill missions and, instead, return to their bases, claiming they carried out their orders. There's no doubt that post-traumatic stress disorder is a serious problem in the military, but it's also apparent that the new and dangerous drugs being prescribed to soldiers are only making the problem worse. Stimulants help troops stay awake and alert, but also contribute to PTSD. Such stimulants generate norepinephrine, 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 an adrenaline-like chemical which can create vivid and long-lasting traumatic memories. Because norepinephrine enhances emotional memory, a soldier taking a stimulant medication which releases norepinephrine in the brain could be at higher risk of becoming fear-conditioned and getting PTSD in the setting of trauma, wrote Richard Friedman, a professor of psychiatry and director of the psychopharmacology clinic at Weill Cornell Medical College. And many soldiers find it difficult to kick drug habits acquired with the support of the military when they return to civilian life. Often addicted to prescription medications, upon returning home, veterans are forced to visit psychologists who diagnose them with mental disorders and continue to prescribe them drugs, often with tragic consequences. The case of Andrew White is just one example of the tragic consequences of the overuse of psychotropic drugs among returning U.S. soldiers. White, a 23-year-old veteran of the Iraq War, died in 2008 of an overdose of Seroquel, Klonopin, and Paxil, all prescribed by VA doctors. The death was doubly painful for his parents, Stan and Shirley White, who had already lost their oldest son, Bob, a paratrooper killed earlier in Afghanistan. The Whites blamed Andrew's death on overmedication while under the care of both government and private doctors. White's mother said she was carefully administering Andrew's daily medication intake. Andrew's father, Stan, remarked that the family now refers to the 3 drugs Andrew has been taking as the lethal cocktail. Stan commented, "It's antidepressants, antipsychotics, and analgesics. It's just overloading, and your body can't take it." His wife added, He was taking exactly what the VA told him to take. He made the choice to trust the VA, and that trust cost him his life. A spokesperson told ABC News that the VA investigated Andrew White's death and concluded his doctors had met, quote, the community standard of care, and so had done nothing wrong. Still, the Army's Surgeon General's office admitted it was working toward better communications between soldiers, their families, commanders, and health care specialists. Andrew White is not the only soldier who has died from PTSD medications. At least 3 other war veterans died in their sleep within weeks of each other in the same part of West Virginia in 2008. San Diego neurologist Dr. Fred Bowman became intrigued by the unusual deaths. Quote, young men in their 20s don't just die in their sleep, he reasoned. Despite no access to medical files, Bowman compiled a list from news reports of some 300 military deaths linked to sudden heart attacks. The common thread between the hundreds of deaths was the use of antipsychotics and antidepressants, which, depending on type and quantity, are known to cause sudden cardiac arrest. When not causing physical harm, these drugs have also been connected to severe emotional distress, the very issue against which they allegedly protect. North Carolinians John and Mary Nahas found their son, Iraq War veteran Michael Nahas, bleeding in the bathtub from a suicide attempt. The Nahas believed his behavior was the result of a toxic blend of prescription drugs, including oxycodone, Xanax, Percocet, Klonopin, Celexa, Lunestra, and Ambien. Quote, we noticed a decline in his personality from the drugs, explained Mary. They changed cognition and behavior. We noticed anger. He just couldn't think straight. In 2013, the Pentagon released a study of military suicides entitled Risk Factors Associated with Suicide in Current and Former U.S. Military Personnel. This study was based on current and former soldiers' responses to a variety of questions. However, while the study concluded that mental health problems, including manic depressive disorder, depression, and alcoholism, played a major role in military suicides, none of the questions specifically covered prescribed psychiatric drugs. In fact, the words drugs and medication do not appear at all in the study's questionnaire. Soon, Big Pharma may even offer a drug specifically tailored to PTSD. Researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, in conjunction with Massachusetts General Hospital, are working on a vaccine to block GHRELIN, a stomach hormone produced by the body in response to stress. They found that when injected with drugs to block the excess production of ghrelin, GHRELIN, rats appeared to have fewer symptoms associated with PTSD than those not given the drug. But another study indicated that blocking the production and uptake of ghrelin might inhibit the body's ability to regulate energy balance and food intake, which could lead to obesity. Again, we see that these medications can have dangerous side effects. Some claim, and it's fair to ask whether another drug treatment is really needed. Some claim this new drug, like many others, attempts to correct an underlying health condition by merely covering up its symptoms rather than attacking the root states of America's death culture. Drugs are a huge part of the problem. In conjunction with the toxicity of many other aspects of American life, they have contributed to numerous deaths and public health issues. Changing the game. America must revamp both the laws and citizens' attitudes regarding drugs before the entire population is zombified by chemical substances. The only way the misuse of drugs can be effectively addressed is by identifying and addressing the underlying causes of drug abuse: poverty, wealth inequality, and hopelessness. Obviously, harsh and discriminatory prosecution at the federal level has proven ineffective. Instead, such an upheaval in thought and action must take place at the local level, for only at the local level can the suitable remedies for this problem be found. When faced with a medical problem, thoughtful citizens must not depend upon only one source of information. Seek second opinions from health authorities and study for yourself the evidence available in books and on the internet. The person who cares most about your health is yourself. Too often, conventional medicine is based on outmoded training, misleading marketing, and the drive for profits. Be wary of government-driven hysteria over potential pandemics. Can you believe that I just read that? Quote, be wary of government-driven hysteria over potential pandemics. Unquote. Jim Marrs, 2015. The guy knew what he was talking about. That is an absolutely accurate prediction. As well as government agencies that have proven more beholden to corporate interests than the concern for the well-being of the public. Keen attention must be given to legal prescription drugs as well as the drugs we have deemed illegal. Individuals should educate themselves on the benefits of the drugs, but also on the dangers of usage and the risk of abuse. Serious attention should be given to preventive measures such as nutrition, diet, and exercise, rather than simply the possibility of chemical treatment. The question of vaccines especially requires serious consideration. While some vaccines have been proven effective against disease, the increasing use of adulterants, such as thimerosal and squalene, makes many current vaccines dangerous. Vaccines should be scheduled over a longer period of time to avoid the medical issues associated with simultaneous vaccines. Public funds should go for the study of vaccines by truly objective organizations. Can you imagine? What if we actually had truly objective organizations studying our vaccines? Well, they wouldn't sell any, I don't think, would they? At least fewer people would take them because they'd know what's involved. Laws protecting vaccine makers should be revoked and individual liability returned to those producing the drugs. Government protection agencies such as the FDA and Child Protective Services must be reorganized to avoid even the appearance of conflict of interest. It is long past time that marijuana, an herb with no record of physical harm yet proven health benefits, be regulated rather than outlawed. Prohibition has led to the prosecution of hundreds of thousands of otherwise lawful citizens and has proven no more successful than alcohol prohibition. Thousands of lives have been ruined and public funds wasted on these inequitable marijuana laws, while criminal enterprises have only expanded. The time has come to recognize psychiatric mind-altering drugs as the driving force behind the horrific rise of public shootings and the increasing suicide rates among teens and veterans. The corporate mass media, so dependent on drug advertising, should shift the focus of its ire from guns to the drugs that clearly cause both suicidal and homicidal tendencies. It would appear that the ongoing agenda of government and corporate media concerning firearm fear-mongering has more to do with disarming the population than protecting it. Like society in general, the military should look past the surface problem of drug use by its soldiers to the underlying causes. It is no wonder that troops sent to faraway locations to fight unnecessary wars for corporate interests should turn to drugs to relieve their pain after being trained to kill and given indiscriminate amounts of mood-altering drugs while in service. They are then largely abandoned and even branded as potential terrorists by their own government when they return home. Once our troops are through defending true freedom and liberty, they should find the dignity and respect they so deserve. Drugging the Military by Jim Marrs. Well, that's the end of that chapter, and I think I'm going to take advantage of getting that done in just about a half an hour to award myself the rest of the evening off. I will be working with Andy over the next day or two to produce some videos to send out to our new membership as little membership bonuses. And Andy is working away, putting together the benefit packages, um, different gifts that he's ordering for us. And you can join if you want by pushing the join button down there. We have 3 levels. So I look forward to just doing a little extra stuff for fun and showing a little bit of a personal side of me that you might not see on the uh, f- on the uh, on the Minefields package on the McDuff Lives show. Um, otherwise, well, I'm getting a little tongue twisted, and I'm going to call it a night. Thanks very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will talk to you Monday morning for another edition of McDuff Lives.